Nick tried to buy me well, you saw that, Captain Marvel with the Venom face.
Yeah, we're all confused as to why you didn't get it.
Listen,
There's no one
I
else that
fully
would get it.
understand why that makes sense, but I don't like the face. It
Well,
looks
yeah, it's a
gross. I
Venom
don't want
face.
that on my I don't like it.
Hilary, Venom's
That's
face
not a thing
is
I like about Venom.
Venom's
I
face is about 80% of his likability.
No, I don't like it when he does his big, like, "bleh" thing.
Mm.
I'm not into
You
it.
know what, then? If I were you, I'd stay away from all the, 90s solo stuff, because that is very,
Whenever he, like, talks about his past and stuff, I'm like, "Yeah, that all sounds terrible. I don't wanna
yeah,
get
a lot
into
of,
that."
that, like, how big can we make his jaw? How many teeth can we put in the jaw? How much green
Yeah.
drool can come out of his jaw?
No, thank you. No,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's very much that.
Welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. I'm Hilary.
I'm Nick.
And today, as promised, we're going to talk about Poison X.
Poison X.
Where Venom and X-Men meet.
Yes.
I mean,
finally.
not meet, but
finally. You know, it's funny. Looking this up, everything is like the first ever Venom and X-Men crossover, as if people have just been chomping at the bit.
Begging,
to have the X-Men
How
and Venom.
has this not happened yet? Is what people wonder.
I don't know how much you and Eric have gotten into, just how deeply you've fallen into this web
I mentioned it.
You have fallen into the Venomverse.
Yes, hard.
And I feel like
you should remember, and I think our listeners might remember.
Yes.
They were here for the very start of it because it happened with Dark Web.
Yeah.
Because Dark Web just sort of like drops you in.
Yeah.
And like anything with Venom is like, oh yeah, you know, like there's like 100 versions of Eddie Brock, and he's living in a garden.
Which
and
I didn't get any of these references in Dark Web. He
travels through time and space,
okay,
and like all of that, and it's just completely bananas. And I was like, what is happening?
I remember. I saw it happening. We were recording, and I could see in your face that you were just like, Venom.
I have to know.
Venom is for me. So have you fully, like, I know so you've gone back, because Poison X is before Dark Web.
Yeah, I had to go back because I wanted to get, because it was like the King in Black stuff was like, what the heck is happening with the King in Black? But then if you wanted the King in Black stuff, you had to go back further.
Yes.
So that you could figure out what was happening with like the symbiote and how he was with Eddie and all this stuff, because it's after he was with Flash.
Right.
It's a whole thing. So I just had to keep going back and back and back and back and back.
So have you caught up to the Venom that we saw in Dark Web?
Yes.
You're there.
I've gotten, well, I mean, I think I'm like past.
You're post Dark Web.
Yes.
Okay. You did it.
But I didn't go all the way back.
Right.
Eric and I talked about this because Eric has read like all of the early stuff.
I know he has.
But he hasn't read the newer stuff. And I've read pretty far back, but not back to like.
Yeah. Like
not
to
before.
I'm gonna eat your brain era of Venom.
Yes, which I think is why I like Venom.
Because he's eating fewer brains.
Like the brain thing is like a joke now,
right?
Where he'll like threaten people that he's gonna eat their brains, but nobody actually thinks he's gonna do it. It's that kind of thing.
Okay. So
there's no actual gruesome brain eating,
right?
In what I have read.
Okay, so looking at like your Goodreads and stuff, You have probably read
on me.
You have probably read like 100 issues of Venom since we talked Dark Web.
So much. I've read a lot.
This blows my mind.
Well, it's because
I know that I played a role in this because Dark Web was my suggestion.
Yes.
Because it was a Spider-Man X-Men crossover.
You started it.
So I was there at the ground floor.
Because everything, like from when I started with Venom, everything has been Marvel-wide universe event.
Yeah.
Marvel-wide universe event.
True.
Everything.
Yeah.
And so I get into something and then I have to read everything.
I understand.
And then there'll be like maybe one issue and then you're into the next giant thing. So I've just been on a roll.
Just nonstop.
Yeah.
Just nonstop.
Yeah.
All Venom all the time.
All Venom all the time. So anyway, all that is just backstory to what we are doing today.
Yes.
Because in Poison X, we have the complete connection of my current obsession for whatever reason, Venom, and X-Men, which you may recall is the topic of this podcast.
It's what the whole podcast is about.
This is an X-Men podcast.
Yeah, so I kind of dropped into Venom here, but I had read all of the Bendis All New X-Men, which is the X-Men team that we're dealing with here. Is a time-displaced, original, like, younger version, and it's spinning out of X-Men Blue, and I'm not quite to X-Men Blue yet, but I read, like, many issues of that team, and I like it. I like the vibe. I like what's going on. That's pretty
much where I am, because I also have read, like, a lot of the stuff with them. Like, they first come, Beast brings them.
Yes, is a whole thing.
Whatever. Anyway,
it's a whole thing.
We don't have to talk about that.
I think the Black
I've read
Vortex
sort of a bunch.
is maybe where I got thrown off because it was crossovers and things. But...
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But, like, where we land with Poison X, at this point, Cyclops, Jean, Beast, Iceman, and Angel, from the past, the young versions of them, are now sort of, like, on their own. They've, like, forged their own team.
Yes.
I didn't see that happen.
Right.
But that's where we are now.
Yeah, well, because you also had, like, concurrently you had X-Men Gold going, and then eventually X-Men Red came in, and so you had, like, kind of different iterations of the team, and Blue was the one that was focused on the time-displaced tweeny versions, and that's where we are now. I read this, and then it reinvigorated my, like, I gotta go and pick up where I left off with that and see it through, because I was really digging it, and I think it was the crossovers that kind of killed it, because I read the solo Cyclops series, and then Black Vortex happened, and that was, like, with Guardians and all sorts of stuff going on, and then I feel like after that, the title gets picked up by Dennis Hopeless for a while, and then Jean gets her own offshoot comic, like Young Jean, and like that's the area where I haven't read, and here we are in X-Men Blue. So I'm going to do it.
The trouble with you and these crossovers is that you're a completist, because something that I perfected in my plowing through the Venom stuff is when you hit those things, you don't have to read all of it.
I hear what you're saying.
You have to, like, cherry pick exactly what issues you actually need. Because, like, I read it on the Marvel Universe, whatever it is, the app, and they will give you everything. Everything that touches on it at all.
Well, back when Wakanda Forever came out, I wanted to read a Namor book, and so I read the King in Black Namor book. And it was a fine Namor story, but I don't know what it had to do with King in Black. It was like somebody just mentioned King in Black, and they were like, call it a King in Black tie-in.
Yep.
Because it wasn't. Yep. But that's all of King in Black that I've read. Just Namor.
Just the Namor.
Just that's it. Yeah.
So you don't know what's going on.
I don't know. No.
But regardless, this is before King in Black.
This is pre-King in Black, pre-Dark Web.
So anyway, Poison X.
Okay.
Here we go now.
All right. So the crossover event, Poison X, consists of issues of X-Men Blue and Venom that ran from January to March 2018. This is spinning out of the Venomverse.
Yes.
Which I didn't read, but you read. You know all about the Venomverse.
I did, yes. I read the Venomverse.
And this is where the Poisons, who are kind of the main antagonists here, are introduced in the Venomverse.
In Venomverse.
Okay. All right, so it's created by Cullen Bunn with art by Edgar Salazar. It concludes in the Venomized miniseries. So Venomized goes after Poison X and wraps up some of the X-Men storyline in there. So I think we're going to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll go into that, which I don't really understand why they're separate things, because the storylines are very... It just
continuous.
Completes the story.
Yeah, I mean, if you picked up just Venomized, I think you'd be like, what are the X-Men doing? Like, what's going on? You know? But anyway, Venomized was by Cullen Bunn and Ivan Coelho, and yeah, they're a good one too. Like, I got to the end of Poison X and was like, but there's no resolution.
It's basically a cliffhanger.
It is. Yeah, it's a part 1 and part 2. I don't know why they don't call it that. So it kicks off in X-Men Blue Annual number 1.
Number 1.
Yes.
So we start out, and Scott is on a video chat with his father, Corsair, who's hanging out with the Starjammers, and they're sort of having a cute father-son chat.
Like, you just did the Corsair episodes not too long ago.
Not too long ago. Yeah, I've had some Corsair.
I like Corsair.
Yeah,
I always like when he
nice.
shows up. Yeah.
He's nice. He's cool. But they're chatting, and then all of a sudden, their ship is attacked.
Right.
And it's like Scott is watching on the video screen all of this crazy stuff happening. Yeah. He's like, Dad, what's going on? And what is happening is people in symbiote, like with symbiote.
Right. That's the thing that's confusing about this to me, because honestly, sometimes it's like, what are we talking? Is the symbiote in control? Is it not? Is the symbiote nice? It's confusing.
Well, that's because it depends on who's wearing it, because some of the symbiotes are attached to people who are being bad.
Right.
And they're just kind of along for the ride.
Okay.
And some of some of them isn't right. What you're probably feeling conflicted about is during this particular time.
Yeah.
This very particular time, the Venom symbiote is very much in its head, about being a hero.
Right.
So it is continually being like, I need to make my host be a hero.
Right.
So that's happening a lot. But then at the same time, you have also just criminals wearing symbiotes.
Like basically bounty hunters with symbiotes. But that is a thing that I was confused about because it kept being like the symbiote on Brock was like, no, we should be helpful.
Yes.
And Brock's like, just waste him. Let's just get out of here. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Because what I think is happening is the Venom symbiote has had a lot more time to like develop its own persona.
It's more
than like a typical symbiote. I think
see.
most symbiotes are just sort of like this goo
Just
creature
like running on instinct.
floating around. They find a host. They're like, here we are, we're a host. Great. Let's
Okay.
just whatever.
Okay.
But Venom is different.
Right.
Anywho, the Starjammers are attacked by these very colorful symbiote-wearing pirate people.
Mm-hmm.
And they appear to be kidnapped.
Yes. And Corsair, before the screen goes dead, he's like, Scott, here's where we are. And then it clicks out.
Oh, yeah, he gives him
So
his
he knows the last
coordinates.
location. Yes.
So, Scott's like, well, we're going to go save my dad. And the whole team goes along. They're all very cool with this.
Yeah, I like Jean in this because Jean is very much like in control.
I think
She's
Jean's
like,
the leader
she
of
is.
the team.
She's like, to me, my X-Men.
Yeah,
and all
she's
that.
like the official leader.
Yeah.
And she gets them all into a spaceship, apparently.
Yeah.
And they take off. And before they go to outer space, they decide, well, those guys were clearly wearing symbiotes.
Yeah.
Who
could help us with that?
who knows about symbiotes?
Yeah.
Is this dude Venom.
Venom.
And so these children go and they find Venom.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, dude, can you help us? And he's like, no.
Pass. Hard pass. Doesn't want to help.
I don't want to. And
Yeah.
he's not really being a jerk about it. He's just like, I don't want to go into space with a bunch of children.
Yeah.
Just get out of my face.
Yep.
And so they kidnap him. I can't remember
Yes.
exactly how they subdue him, but I mean,
No. So like a fight breaks out and they have like a brawl.
Yes.
And the symbiote
that's right.
kind of incapacitates Eddie and allows them to be taken.
That's right. Because
the
symbiote is like,
wants to help.
Yeah.
He's like, we have to help these idiots,
because he sees that they're like using the symbiotes
for like
badly.
nefarious
for
reasons.
nefarious
Yes.
reasons.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, he helps the X-Men. The symbiote, which is genderless,
Yes.
helps the X-Men subdue Venom. Eddie Brock, kidnapped by the X-Men.
Yes.
This is where we start.
Yep.
So he wakes up in space.
Yeah.
And they're like, listen.
Here's the thing.
We kidnapped you. I know that's bad, but we need you. And
Yeah.
so they tell him, the last thing that Psyche saw and all of this stuff.
So they're heading to the last location. When they get there, they see like something has gone down. They find the Starjammer's little droid, Sikorsky. He like pops out of the wall
Right.
and explains what happens and everything. There's a whole thing with Clintar symbiotes, and I don't know what
Clintar that's what they are.
That's just
that's
what it
like
is.
their race, their species,
that's
whatever.
just it.
There's
so
like
they're
a
from this planet.
There's a planet. Well,
Okay.
let's
Okay.
say yes.
All
There's
right.
a planet called Clintar where they all hang out.
Okay.
So they're sort of working out what are we going to do about this, and then up come the symbiotes, the
Here they
colorful
are,
symbiote
looking
pirate
for
people.
us,
And they're
cliffhanger.
like, ba ba ba. That's the end of that issue.
Yep. And we roll into X-Men Blue 21.
Still in the blue title.
Yes.
And so we have another big fight. Cyclops is like really,
Kind of mortally wounded.
wounded.
He gets impaled by symbiote-ness.
Yeah.
Through the gut.
Killer Thrill is the name of the leader of the pirate gang.
Yes.
That's a name.
Yes.
And so
She's basically has her crew. They have their symbiotes, and they're collecting bounty on Corsair and the Starjammers.
yeah, so somebody, we don't know who, has put a bounty
Yes.
out on Corsair, and they're going to take him in.
Yeah.
So the X-Men decide that they're going to be detectives, basically,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not just going to like take them down. They're going to figure out what the heck is
Yeah.
happening. And so they figure out where these symbiotes...
Venom is funny because, like, as things start to get real, he's like, oh, crap. He's like, do you guys think maybe we should call, like, the adult X-Men, maybe? Because this is getting real. And they're like, nah,
This is legit.
they're fine.
So they find out that Killer Thrill and her gang
Yeah.
bought these symbiotes from like a slave seller guy.
Hayes Manser.
Yes. The space slaver guy.
Yes.
So apparently this guy has been like hunting down symbiotes that don't have hosts or whatever and just like selling them to people.
Right.
Just to use as tools.
Yeah, not cool.
And so you hear a lot from the Venom symbiote being like, what now?
Yeah.
And Eddie's like, I want to go home. And he's like, we have to save my people. And it's a whole thing with them fighting in their little brain.
Yeah. The thing that you know is going to happen happens at this point. We have a fight, and the X-Men are overtaken with symbiotes.
Yes.
And suddenly, the classic X-Men team all have symbiotes.
Yes, so you get to have sort of like a crazy look for all of them. Like they just have like their colors, but they have the crazy faces, and some of them have like talons, and they're all just like decked out as Venom.
Yeah, Cyclops has a cool vibe. I think this happens in the next issue. But Cyclops has this thing where it like dissolves his visor, heals his wound, and now it's like he can manifest the optic blast from any part of him. So he's like shooting it out of his hands and his fingers, and he's like controlling it in weird ways, and it looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
This is a real question. Has anyone in the Marvel Universe not been a Venom at some point? Anyone?
I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find someone.
Aunt May?
Captain Marvel has legitimately been Venomized.
I
like
tried
everybody.
to get you the pop figure.
Yes, I know. I legitimately can't. I mean, like all of the Avengers.
Yeah.
I guess maybe Tony Stark hasn't.
I would not put money on that. I wouldn't put money on that. I bet he has. Anyway, we're in Venom 162. So, right, as I was saying, the bonding stabilizes Cyclops. It destroys his visor. He's shooting things from everywhere. Venom is going to kill Mancer, and Jean stops him.
Yes. Cyclops is like, yes, you know,
might as well.
It's your business.
It's a little,
You're not an
he's
X-Man.
a little dark about it,
Whatever. But I want to ask him questions first. And so they figure out what's going on. Beast figures out that Mancer uses, like, he puts trackers in the symbiotes.
Yeah.
So with that, they should be able to find this gang again, because they are wearing symbiotes that Mancer sold them.
Yes.
So they have trackers in them.
Yes.
And so the X-Men still have the symbiotes on them, and basically for several issues now, they're just going to be wearing these things.
I do have one question that you may or may not know the answer to, because we both have a hole in this X-Men reading. Why is Beast magical?
That I did not know.
Okay. So I asked Eric, and he said he was pretty sure that Beast had been, like, working with Ileana to, like, cultivate some... There's a whole thing with, like, Limbo and everything. But I don't think that had anything... I don't even think Beast was involved in Dark Web, so...
No, I think that falls exactly in a hole in my reading.
But I was interested in it.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things that I was like, I have to figure that out.
You get a lot of him interacting with the ship.
Yeah.
The ship AI.
Yeah.
Which is a familiar thing for Beast.
Sure.
You get a lot with him, like, forming relationships with technology.
That happens in the animated series, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that happens a lot, but yeah, there is some weird magic happening that I just accepted. It was like, okay, I guess he does magic.
Okay.
It feels like a studying type thing, you know, like Beast is just like, maybe I'll study magic.
So the symbiotes they're affecting the X-Men, like the ones that have, and the X-Men are kind of trying to break free and focus on what they're doing, but the symbiotes on the X-Men are kind of urging them to, no, let's go free all these symbiotes that Mancer has taken captive, and that's kind of like part of what's going on. Anyway, that's the end of that one, and now we're in X-Men 22.
X-Men 22.
Woo!
The X-Men find Killer Thrill where they've got the Starjammers.
Yes, they use the tracers that Mancer had and all the symbiotes that he sold, and they get there.
Yes. And you get some pretty cool, like, X-Men in space stuff.
Yeah.
Because the way that they get from their ship to...
Yeah, Killer Thrill.
Killer Thrill's ship is Iceman throws a giant ball of ice... and breaks their hull.
Yeah.
And then seals the hull with ice.
Yes.
And makes sort of like a airlock bridge situation.
Yeah. It is cool.
So they just come through that.
Yeah.
Which I thought was fun.
I actually thought, like, even though it's kind of gratuitous that it's just like the X-Men are Venom, you know what I mean? I thought that what they did with their powers was actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Like the way that Iceman in particular, Angel I feel like didn't really have much to do here. Like
That's
I
true.
think all the others kind of had specialties, and Iceman, you know, all the space stuff is really good here. But I feel like for the most part, they were kind of thoughtful and clever about how they use the symbiote powers, like interacting with the individual X-Men. I thought it was cooler than it strictly had to be.
Yeah, well, they just sort of amped it up, took him to the next level.
Yeah, well, I think it was just like, what would Iceman do if he also had a Venom type symbiote? You know what I mean? And it's like, it follows like kind of a natural trajectory there. Yeah. I just like that. So that's a point for it.
It's nice. So what is also happening, though, with the symbiotes is they're sort of heightening their host's emotions, which is a pretty common symbiote thing. Mm-hmm. And particularly Jean is concerned because Scott this whole time is just like, I'm going to find them and I'm going to kill them because they have taken my father and I am freaking the heck out. Yeah. And she's just sort of like,
which I think is clever of them to do, because part of this whole thing, like part of the reason why the all new X-Men and like the time displaced X-Men happened was because of the whole schism with Cyclops, where he's like basically a villain.
Where he has sort of this inside him, this like seed
and so them sort of pulling it out this way is kind of cool. Like if you read the other stuff, I thought it was kind of neat.
That's true. So they get onto the ship, they kind of beat people down, they free the Starjammers.
Yes.
Cool thing here, Jean uses her amped up powers, which I don't think they'd have to be amped up for this, but she does this. She makes the symbiotes on the piratey people think, like she gets into their brains and makes them think that they are hearing loud noises, which damage symbiotes. Yeah. And so they react as if they are really hearing them because she's making the illusion that they are.
Yes. See, and I like that too, because I feel like most of the time, even though that's an option on the table, it would have been that somehow she actually makes the sound. Yeah. You know what I mean? But she doesn't. She's just kind of like, and you think you're hearing things. Yeah. Which feels a little bit more Emma Frosty to me than Jean. And I feel like,
with the illusion. Yeah. Sure. So that's a cool thing. They are now incapacitated. Yeah. So yes, they're separated. Jean and Cyclops and other team members are in different parts of the ship.
Yes.
But they can still, you have periodically you'll have Jean and Cyclops be like, we have our psychic
their
rapport.
Link is like very strong here, like communicating regularly with each other.
Yeah. So when Jean finally finds Killer Thrill, we've sort of been wondering this whole time where the Starjammers are going, like why who's paying them to take the Starjammers. Exactly. And so we see sort of shadow things here and there. Yeah. Who is this mysterious person that they're working for? So Jean has cornered Killer Thrill and thinks she's got this down. Yeah. But then these other like creatures in the darkness sort of emerge.
Maybe Craven,
apparently. I don't know. And are like, we're gonna take you down. I don't know. Yeah. Then there's sort of like a cliffhanger for that little storyline. We get over to Cyclops again.
Yeah, Scott and the Starjammers are in a separate place. And something starts going wild, and Scott feels like an instant sever of the connection with Jean, and he's like, "Uh-oh."
Because they've been communicating this whole time, and she's just gone.
Right.
So he's alarmed, but then Jean shows up, and it's like, what's going on? But she has what might... Now, did this mean anything at all to you? She shows up, and Killer Thrill, and they have these sort of angular white faces. Yes.
Yes, me.
What did you think of this?
Well, I didn't know what it was, but I assumed that it was bad because it's a cut to Venom, and he's like, "What the poisons?" Yes. And I was like, "Okay, so they're the poisons, probably of the titular poison X." Yes. Here.
So Venom sees this and is like, "Well, crap." Yes. Because way back before any of this ever happened. Before any of this ever happened in Venomverse, which we talked about. Yes. There was this whole big thing with all of these different Venoms from different universes, which was, by and large, an excuse to see different superheroes as Venom. Yes. Because it was basically...
But you read it.
I did.
You sopped it up like a gravy.
So it was like Gwenpool and like Doctor Strange and like just random people. Wolverine. Yep. As Venom in their universes. Okay. Getting sucked into... one universe.
The Venomverse. So you
have the Venomverse. So it's just, I don't know what universe it is that they end up in, but basically Doctor Strange Venom from some universe just started bringing Venoms from other universes to this universe to fight the poisons. Okay. Because these poisons in Doctor Strange's universe had discovered that they are the perfect hosts for symbiotes. Okay. But the trouble is, they can't take over a symbiote unless the symbiote already has a host.
Oh, okay.
So they basically hunt hosts with symbiotes.
Okay.
And attach themselves to them.
That's so many layers, like both literally and
yes.
metaphorically.
Which kills both the host and the mind of the symbiote.
Yikes.
So they end up, like the poison alien creature.
Just kind of like get the body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just takes over. So the host is then dead and the symbiote has no persona or whatever. It's just the poison with extra powers. So that whole thing went down. And what happened was Doctor Strange brought all of these different Venoms to him to try to defeat them. But what it ultimately did was show them that there were more Venoms and more symbiotes in all these different universes that they could now hunt.
Yes.
And so Venomverse doesn't super end in a really like satisfying way. They just sort of like deal with the current situation and kind of like I think just Venom escape. I can't remember, but like they just like go away and like isolate this one universe. And I think they think that they've sort of locked the poisons in this universe, so they're done.
Well, it's kind of like the Marvel Zombies concept, right? Like isolate it all to this one planet and just like just don't go there, anyone.
Yeah, but it's an interesting story because it turns the symbiotes and Venom specifically into prey for these overwhelmingly powerful creatures. And so Eddie's reaction here when when he realizes that these are poisons is this holy frick.
Yeah.
I was just trailing along with these stupid kids and like
I've stumbled
dealing
into,
with symbiote stuff, whatever. But now this is real stuff that is now happening.
Okay.
So from his perspective, this is like the end of the world.
Yeah.
Kind of. You know, the poisons are just going to kill all the symbiotes. And there's nothing anyone can do about it.
At the start of this year, if somebody told me, you know, Hilary's going to have a nuanced,
encyclopedic knowledge,
and comprehensive understanding of Venom and the various Venom verses, I would have said, you're crazy.
I think you've tried to get me to read Venom before, and I wouldn't because I hated all of that.
Yeah. Well, now you're in it.
It's the eating brains.
You're in
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I remember there was in the I want to say early 90s, there was these Spider-Man action figures and they had backpacks and they would make noises. And the Venom one said, "I'm gonna eat your brain," and they like pulled it, they like discontinued it
because it was too spooky.
Yeah, it was just too much. And my friend Brandon had one, and he would say it, "I'm gonna eat your brain."
So gross.
Which is a weird thing for a child's toy to say. Anyway, we're in the final chapter of Poison X before we move on to Venomized. So it's the start of Venom 163. Scott is with the Starjammers. Jean is with the Poisons. Venom is with the remaining X-Men, and he is fully freaked out that now it's like the Poisons are here, and I'm with children.
Yes, exactly.
So Iceman makes another tunnel to get them back to the Blackbird, and we have a fight in open space.
Yes. Scott is all, we have to save Jean. And Venom's like, my dude, she's dead. It's
gone.
Like, she is dead.
Yeah.
I think Scott doesn't understand because her body is sitting there. And it's her voice. I mean, it's all, and it's also, it's very confusing because the poisons do kill the host and the symbiote. But they also retain their memories and sort of their personalities. Huh. So it's a weird, it's like it's not really them, but they'll still be able to like talk to you like they're them.
I see.
So Jean is continuing to do this and being like, nope, it's me. Yep. And the Poisons also have this whole thing where they're kind of culty. Okay. They're very much like, no, come, you don't understand. You're scared now, but just join the hive and you'll see and all this kind of crap. Yeah. They're trying to like convert them basically. Yeah. But Venom wants them to just get out of Dodge. Jean's a write-off. We're not even going to think about it anymore. She's dead. Yeah. Jean is dead. Yes. And X-Men readers are like, Yep, Jean's dead.
We've never been misled on that front before.
Jean's probably dead.
She's dead.
In a weird Venom crossover, Jean is probably dead.
A new Jean, but give her a different name. You know what I mean?
That's probably what they should do.
Leave it at that and never change it back to being Jean or a clone of Jean. Nothing dark or sinister.
No, nothing weird and creepy. Anywho.
Yes. This is like the one place where Angel gets something to do because he is the first one to kind of fully shake the symbiote and get back into it.
Yes, because at this point, I think Venom is now telling them, like, you have to get out of your symbiotes. Like, the symbiotes don't want to get off of them because they want to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
But Venom's like, you're going to die. Like, you have to get out of this because, again, the poisons can't do anything to you unless you're wearing a symbiote.
Unless you're fully,
So
complicated.
He's trying to get them to get him off.
Yeah.
Warren breaks free. He's flying through space, which is apparently a thing he can do.
I guess.
And, like, fighting. Everything's fun. They break free, and they get away from the poisons, but they're all sad because Jean is dead.
Dead. Jean is
She's completely dead.
Everyone is dead as a doornail.
Dead as a doornail.
So that's pretty much like the end. That's our like the end moment. And what feels kind of like a post-credit scene is that the Starjammers, you know, of course there's like, hey, sorry about Jean. Anyway, we gotta go. And
I'm your deadbeat dad. Bye.
Yeah. And so they are taking the symbiotes that they got back from Hayes, that got off the X-Men right now, and they're gonna take them back to Clintar. But when they get there, the planet is dead.
Completely
it's
empty.
Desolate, totally empty. And
Dun,
that's that's how Poison X ends.
Yes.
So there really are no answers. Like it doesn't
Yes.
It's not a contained miniseries and how the branding might want you to believe that it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean that is it. That's the run.
Yeah.
But if you keep going
Yeah.
into Venomized, you get the end of the story.
You do. You do.
Which you really have to do.
Yeah,
because
you have to.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So they think, again, this is sort of a thing with the poisons, I guess. They sort of think that, you know, this is probably something to keep our eye on, but we're probably fine.
Yeah.
But then when the Starjammers find this thing with the Clintar, they realize that the poisons have taken all of the symbiotes that don't have hosts from that entire planet
Yes.
and are gonna come after Earth.
And basically just be like, you got a symbiote, and you got a symbiote, and you got a symbiote.
Yes.
And you know, so we'll just kind of dive through Venomized quickly, but it begins with a lot of X-Men content because the poisons first tackle like the Xavier mansion.
Yeah, they break into
or
the
wherever
mansion.
the X-Men are, I don't know.
Well, there's a bunch of people that they like recognize who are attacking it, but they're poisons probably from different universes.
Right, right. But we get a lot. I mean, we see Old Man Logan, we see Storm, and they're all just like getting symbiote tackled and everything like that.
Because they have guns that shoot symbiotes.
Yes.
And so the X-Men are like, what the heck is happening? Because they don't really understand. Because they haven't, you know...
Yeah.
Cyclops hasn't reached them yet and all this stuff.
It's an alternate version of X-Force and symbiotes.
That's what it is.
And so they see like a Wolverine-esque symbiote, and so they're led to believe that we can trust this, but no, it's like boom, 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 boom.
So now all of these kids in the X-Mansion, and then we find out kind of all these people all over the world are just wearing symbiotes. They can't get them off because they've been modified somehow, and they don't know what the heck is happening.
Yeah. So our main focus, I think, is X-Men characters, and then it expands to like Captain America and a wide Avengers rosters, and they're all just like trying to figure this out. Scott, this whole time, keeps getting little flashes of Jean, and he's convinced that she is still in there, that she's alive, that she's fighting the poison somehow.
But Venom is trying to convince him that like that's not happening. Yeah. She's dead, largely because a big thing that the poisons do before they have a symbiote is that they tap into your brain and make you think that you're seeing what you want.
Right. Which happens. Cyclops does see Jean at one point, Beast sees Ileana, and so like you kind of see this power playing out, but it's enough of a convincing thing that Cyclops is really having trouble shaking it.
Yeah. So Venomized is basically the story of the poisons coming to Earth, venomizing everyone, venomized, and then trying to then let poisons take over everybody. And eventually what happens is that Jean, which we might have expected, sort of breaks free of this whole thing and like shatters her poison mask and all of this stuff.
It happens really fast, and it's honestly kind of a little confusing because it's like Jean breaks free and it's like, well, we had a good run. I guess if this lady can stop us, then I guess that's pretty much it.
So Jean now has broken free, and she sort of like pushes past it so much and is like, you know what? I'm taking care of this situation, which is my favorite version of Jean.
Yeah. Which we saw a lot in Dark Web. We saw a lot in Dark Web that she was just kind of like, okay, all right.
Like, I'm just going to step in.
Yeah.
I got this. And so she just kills the poisons.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably where it's handy that they're a hive mind.
Yeah.
Because it's like she got an in by being poisonated.
Right.
And so now she's just like hitting them where it hurts. And everybody all over the world is like, what's happening?
Yeah.
The poisons are dying. And they just die. She just kills them. She just kills them all. They're dead now.
Yep.
So genocide number 2 for Jean.
Yeah. She's
I
racking
guess.
them up. Yeah, she is. She is.
Go Jean.
Yep.
Then we
I mean,
find
I guess,
out.
but...
Then we find out that she did lose her body. The thing that Venom kept saying is that like it dissolves the host's body,
right,
as like it like metabolizes the body to finish the symbiosis, whatever. And so, yes, that did happen, but it's Jean's power that like made her like be able to live through that. So her body is gone. She recreates a body for herself.
When she first breaks, she has a very like Silver Surfer-y kind of vibe.
Yeah.
She's like,
it's like her essence.
Yes.
Or whatever. And then she sort of like reconstitutes some sort of body.
Yes.
To live with. But then that's where we end sort of with Venomized, with Scott and Jean reunited, and Jean just sort of being like, I'm different now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so where does that go?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, see, and this is another thing that made me be like, I have to finish this series, because I've never known exactly how the original team gets folded back into the time stream or whatever, or what happens next. And having Jean go through this metamorphosis was also really interesting to me.
That feels like an important ending to the storyline.
Yeah. I had a good time with this. I really enjoyed it. I don't think I liked it as much as I liked Dark Web.
That could be.
It's not as deep as Dark Web either. You know
what
I mean?
think I sailed through it better than Dark Web. As you may recall, I did not enjoy reading Dark Web. Although I did enjoy it in hindsight. But this, I think I kind of like sailed through that a little. It's got a little more excitement and a little less like trudgery.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say like, you know, I know basic Venom lore. I don't have any like deep knowledge of Venom. I didn't know the poisons or anything like that, but I just was kind of like, okay, so these are worse than the other things that are also bad. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't really, I wasn't lost or confused or anything like that. I do feel like, you know, it's funny that everything bills it as like this first X-Men Venom crossover ever. But I think it does manage what you want in a good crossover, and that is to like see the other characters bring something different out of you know, out of the opposite version in the crossover there. And I think that it also kind of moves the story forward for both as well.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Like stuff with the Starjammers and Scott, and like Scott's darkness, him and Jean, you know, like it's kind of a necessary thing to have to read. And you know, I was impressed that they managed to pull out a pretty exciting story in what was pretty thinly veiled, like, let's make everyone Venom. Yeah. You know?
That's every crossover with Venom.
All right.
All of them.
All right.
That exact thing.
So I'm definitely I'm gonna catch up to, I was looking at, well, I texted Eric and was like, how do I get to X-Men Blue from where I am? And he was like, here. Yeah, boop, 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 boop. He pulled out his, like, X-Men murder board and told me exactly where to go.
It's in his brain. He doesn't have to write it down.
I know. So thanks, Eric. So I'm going to do that. I don't know that I'm going to pick up any Venom. I don't think that this really pushed me to be like, but where do the poisons grow up? You know, like I don't think it's going to happen.
You've read almost everything with poisons.
Okay, cool. All right. So it's definitely got me back on the all new X-Men original team train. Yeah. So I'm gonna catch up with that. And I had a delightful time.
I did too. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. And I'd been so buried in Venom for so long. It was nice to get back with the X-Men. Yeah. That was a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a nice dovetailing of your two passions. The
my
X-Men and Venom.
My passion for Venom.
But the one place I would knock it is, like, they really didn't have anything for Iceman, Angel, or Beast. Iceman did, but it was like not anything like character.
It was mostly Cyclops and Jean. Right. Yeah. But they had good moments for everybody except Angel.
He just got that little bit at the end. So I guess that's the only place that I would knock at. I would have liked to have seen the team dynamic being a little bit more.
I probably would have liked to see a little bit more actual interaction between the X-Men group and Venom.
Yeah.
Because they're together that whole time
Yeah.
and they do interact. But I think I would have liked to see some growth in some sort of interpersonal thing with them, because I do really like the vibe of like them being kids and him being over it and all that stuff. I could have seen a little more of that.
I agree with you. I think the most of that you get is in the X-Men annual that kicks this off. That has the most content of him being like, I don't want to hang out with you teeny boppers, and then being like, just kidnap Venom. What are you gonna
just kidnap him? I love how easily they go to that.
Yeah.
They're just like, we need him. We'll ask.
Yeah.
If he says no, we're just taking him.
We'll take him.
We're just going to take him.
We'll take Venom.
We're going to.
We'll take Venom, and it's no big
Here's
deal.
another thing I do like about this, now that we're already winding out.
Yes.
I like whenever you have the X-Men crossing over with people in the broader universe, because they bring such a different energy. Like, the way that they play into, like, the whole mutant thing in space with, like, Venom's villains and all this stuff, they just always kind of, like, swoop in and are like, oh crap, it's the X-Men are here, and that's like this wild card, and they just sort of like kill everybody and stuff. They're just like super powerful in a way that I think other characters in the Marvel universe aren't. And I always like when that happens. I feel like there's something else that I read, I wish I could remember recently, where that happened, where it was like Avengers or something, and then they were just sort of like the X-Men showed up and they were like, oh my gosh, okay, new game, here we go. So I always like when that happens. Thanks for going on this Venom journey with me.
I'm so glad you made it work, getting a little bit of Venom content here. I mean, good for you.
I hope you know how much I am restraining myself from telling you every bit of weird Venom lore that is circling in my brain right now.
Feels like
there's so much more.
I'm officially starting a fan campaign for you and Eric to start a Venom spin-off.
Podcast.
Maybe it's just quarterly. I don't know.
I'll start talking from the end of it, and he'll start talking from the beginning, and we'll meet in the middle.
So what a beautiful friendship.
So beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
This is the end of an X-Men podcast episode.
That's right.
Poison X.
Venom
and the X-Men. The next episode is going to be the animated series with Eric. One Man's Worth Parts 1 and 2. The start of Season 4.
Okay. Out of 5?
Out of 5.
Okay.
So we're getting to the end.
Sort of getting there.
Yeah. We're getting there.
You're in the place now where every time like I watch an episode or hear one of those episodes that you guys do, I'm like, never seen this.
I am too.
I had seen the Nightcrawler episode because I remember, because it is so devoutly Christian.
Because
but,
it's striking. It is striking.
But I don't. A lot of these episodes, I'm like, well, I've never heard this in my life.
Yeah,
this
and
is
I think
totally
it's
new.
because like the Nightcrawler one is one that they showed more than once.
Oh, that makes sense.
And I think maybe some of the other ones in the later seasons, they just didn't do
like,
that
pass.
because they were just okay.
Whatever that like Cyclops Western episode.
Oh my gosh,
I hated that.
I know.
Anyway,
the more I think about it, anyway,
no fun.
One
Man's Worth.
I feel good about One Man's Worth. I think it's gonna be fun.
Okay.
So that'll be next time.
All
right. Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. Previously on X-Men is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 90s Music Got Me Like, This and Dorian Life with this very charming gentleman, Nick Gunning. 9021 Here We Go, also with Nick Gunning.
That's true. Am I overexposed? You can tell me.
I think you're underexposed.
Oh, thanks.
Follow us on Twitter or Facebook at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, or share this show wherever you get your podcasts.